guys, I'm Rowan,
And I'm Miguel.
and today we are going to be polishing up our shooter game. This episode has been a long time await.
In this episode, we will be making a title screen, a background, and we will be polishing up some of the artwork for some of our things. The first thing we can start doing is hiding some of the variables that we don't need. The first thing you want to do is hide the X velocity and Y velocity because nobody really cares about that stuff.
Now we're going to be changing up the bullet sprite. Let's make it look like an actual bullet. First, we're going to make another rectangle and delete the original one we already had. It doesn't really matter how big you make it, just make sure, never mind. It doesn't really matter how big you make it, but just make sure it's not too big. And if you don't like how big it is, you can always go back and change the size. Now, I think mine's a little too big, so I'm going to be shrinking it. And for our bullet shape, I'm going to make it curved at the front, but not curved on the other side. So, there's two ways you can do that. One, you put one point at the top right here where it meets at a square. Then you put one in the middle. You can do this by selecting the mouse with this little point at the end. Then, you're going to delete the two corner points. After you delete it, you now have a bullet shape. You can change it to whatever color you would like. For the other way, you're going to make the size smaller by one grid square. Then, you're going to drag out a circle and start at one grid square back. You're going to hold shift while making the circle. You're going to have this round shape.
Please note that if you are making it bigger like we are, that the hitbox will be different when it hits the enemies.
I'm now going to be adding an outline to the bullet sprite. For this method, where I made another circle and put it over top the rectangle, if we were to just put an outline and select everything, then you can see here that the outline is inside of the bullet, and we don't want that. So what we're going to do instead is copy the whole bullet, paste it back in, center it, and put it back to where the original position is, make it go to the back layer, and make the outline 5. Now, we can see the outline is on the outside. So, let's go in the game and see how it looks. And as you can see, we have bullets now, and they look nice.
But they are a bit too big, so we're going to make them a bit smaller.
And now that's
a lot better. You can move the health so it's not half in the middle of your screen.
Also, if you want, this is optional, but you right click on it and click large readout. So it'll just say it like this instead of it having the word health, but you can keep it as always. If you want to put it in large readout, sometimes it'll look like it's the points. So let's go to the backdrop, select text, and above where you put the health variable, inside of this smaller box and this bigger box, this is where the edge of your screen is. So let's put text here and label it health.
Now, if your health is off the screen, move it, but make sure to move the variable along with it. And that looks pretty good.
Now we have bullets and the health looks a lot better.
But have you ever went into a game and not seen a title screen? I'm sure you haven't. So let's make one right now. You can do this by, so you have to make a background for how it's going to look in the back. So you can do this by making this right and calling it title screen. In that, drag this big square to fit the whole screen.
It's okay if it's overlapping, and always make sure to center your sprites.
If it's not looking like it's centered on the screen, check the X and Y. Change that to 0, 0. You can change the color to whatever you want as usual. We're going to change it to blue. Remember, you can always do a gradient scheme, which could look pretty cool, but we're going to keep it simple. This is all we need for the background, and we can write a text, the name of our game. After you write the text, it might not appear, so change the color of the text. You can also change the font by double-clicking on where you wrote the text and changing it to whatever you want. We're going to keep it at pixel.
Now, if you want the text to be centered in the Y position, then you can always center it in the center of the screen, then click it, click down and hold, make sure it's still centered, hold shift, and drag up. Now you can drag it freely up and down without it moving out of place.
Or you can always use the arrow keys, but they're a bit slower. You can copy and paste the word shooter and overlap them with the other one. And just like we did with the bullet, send them to the back layer and make the outline to 5. This will make it a cool retro text. Now, let's make a play button. Name it play. And now you can make a play button. And we're going to make the play button, and you can make the play button whatever shape you want. We're going to make it a square. Or we can do like what we did with the bullet and make it rounded edges. We're going to do the rounded edges. So stay along here to see how to do it. Do exactly what you did with the bullet.
You make a point around each corner, above it and next to it. Make sure they're not too close, but not too far. It doesn't have to be exactly the same position as all the other points, but make sure it's somewhere around it. Then delete the corners. As you can see, sometimes it looks a little wonky and the points kind of are too far from the original point. So what you can do is just make a point in the center and drag it out a little. That looks great.
You can change it to whatever color you want. We're going to make it red. Now, let's add some text. We're going to make it say play or start. Remember, if you can't see it, change the color of the text.
Make sure to center the text, make it larger so it's not kind of tiny, and make sure to center it in the actual game.
Now, let's make this play button work. Okay. This is where you're going to have to go back in a lot of code and change things. So, instead of green flag, it's going to be a when I receive message. Change that message to start. Change that in all of them. We'll speed up this process. I may have forgotten to mention this, but we will be making a death screen. But we're going to be doing that at the end of the video, so stay tuned and watch till the end. If you are enjoying this series, make sure to like and subscribe, because we're making another series on how to make a good clicker game, and we'll be making a lot more. We'll be making a bunch of videos on fun challenges and other tutorials, so stick around. Make sure you're on the title screen sprite. This is very important.
Now, drag out a when I receive start hat. Under it, put change ghost effect by 10, repeat 10.
This makes a cool effect for when you're going into the game.
Make sure to put hide under the when I receive hat block. After the change ghost effect by 10, repeat 10.
Now, go to the play button. There are 2 ways to do this. You can do the first way, which is the simple way, or the second way, which we showed in the clicker video. So we're going to speed it up. But in this video, we're going to show both.
So, for the simple part, when green flag clicked, go to 0, 0, and then...
No, you can change the values in there to wherever you want.
Now, drag out a when this sprite clicked. Under that, put a broadcast start, and then put a change ghost effect by 10, repeat 10. I like using this for whenever I want to make something hide, but I don't want to do it too abruptly. It just looks nicer.
Make sure to add the hide at the bottom, because when you change the ghost effect by 10, repeat 10, it doesn't actually hide. It's just not visible to the naked eye. Therefore, if you still click in that spot and ghost effect is at 100, it will do the same things that it would do even if it was showing.
Remember, we're only using when green flag clicked in the title screen and the play button sprite, because that's there before we click play.
Make sure that in the beginning you drag a clear all graphic effects above that, That way, when you start the game, it's not fully ghosted. Do that also for the title screen.
Drag out a show above that too. Well, we just realized something. We still want it to be in the front layer, but it covers up the play button. So we're going to do a little trick. When green flag clicked, before the go to front layer, drag a wait 0 seconds.
0 seconds just makes it wait 1 frame, which is not a lot, but enough to make this trick work.
Then go to the play button and drag out a go to front layer too. This makes it so that the shooter title screen is at the front layer, but the play button is even further in front. So,
scratch whatever we just said. Haha, get it? Scratch. Instead of put 0 seconds in the title screen, put that in the play button.
Now it should be working. We're testing it, and as you can see there, the button works.
But there's a smoother way to do this, as we said earlier. So let's use that.
Now, under the when green flag clicked hat, put a forever loop. Then, if else. If touching mouse pointer, then set size to. Now, drag out these 3 blocks. This part is very important. Divided by, minus, plus, and size, where you can find in the looks part. It's right here under backdrop number. Now, you're going to put the minus in the first input for the divided by and put that in the second input for the plus. Make sure you get that right. Then, drag the size, duplicate it, put it in the first input and in the third input. You're going to put whatever size you want it to get to. So, I'm just going to say 125. Hit the block you just made, and instead of whatever number you put in the second input, make it say 100. Now, let's test it. As you can see, when we hover over the play button, it gets slightly bigger. And it works still. Now, it's time for the backdrop. Make sure that every time you place something on the backdrop, this health text is always at the front. Okay. For the backdrop, we're just going to make some simple grass. Let's make a big rectangle. Make it go to the back layer and center it. Then we're going to fill it in as this dead grass color. We can make some texture in the grass by using the brush tool, going to the brightness, making it slightly darker, and making some shapes.
You guys don't have to do this though, but it will look a bit cooler. You can make this whatever background you want. You could even go to where it says backdrops, hover over it, and click it. And you can pick from the variety of backgrounds that Scratch has to offer. We're going to use our own though. Wow, this game is looking great so far. But when someone dies, you have to have a funeral. Unless, how bad of a person would you be? Let's have Miguel have a death screen to honor him in destroying all those Roans in the war.
Make a new sprite. Call it Death Screen. Now, for this, I'm going to do a little trick to make a dark, transparent background. So, convert it to a bitmap. This is a little odd, and I know we don't run around in the bitmap forest around here, but trust me. Go to the fill bucket. Click this gradient button up here. It doesn't really matter which one. Make one of the inputs black, and make the other one this red line right here. Now, go to this, drag out a square, and it doesn't matter how big you make it. Stop selecting the square, and get this mouse tool right here. You're going to select some part of the square, and try to get it as small as you can. Copy it, and then convert it back to vector. You can delete this now. Paste it back in, and make it really big. As big as this whole screen. Make sure you center it. Now, as you can see in the game, there's a transparent screen over everything.
but not everything. Make sure to set the X and Y to 0, 0.
Okay.
Now there really is a transparent screen over everything.
Add a text box. Type in, "You died."
Or whatever you want your message to be to the viewers after they have died in the game.
After they pass away in real life.
After they have passed away in this amazing game that you have made.
Okay. Now, we're going to do something a little special. Let's speed up this process.
You can add anything to your desk screen to customize whatever you want. We added a tombstone for Miguel for his services. Now, let's make this desk screen work. Go to Miguel, and where it says change ghost effect by 10, repeat 10, hide, under the hide put broadcast and change the message to death. Now, go to death screen. Click when death show. And we're gonna make it stop all, so you can't do anything else.
Make sure to put a go to front layer.
And click hide.
Make sure to put go to 0, 0. Now, this should work. Let's test it.
It's sad to see Miguel die, but we must.
Bye, Miguel. We'll see you on the other side.
5
Okay.
and oof.
You died. Goodbye,
But did you
Miguel.
guys see how he was at 0 health and he didn't die? Let's fix that real quick. Go out and go to Miguel. And instead of less than 0, make it less than 1. That way, you can make him die when it hits 0. Because 0 is less than 1.
Oh, math. Okay. Now, right before we end off this episode, there's a couple more things we have to do. Go to the title screen and put when green flag clicked, hide variable, health. Then, when I receive start, show variable health. Okay.
Now, let's do what we've all been longing to do. Drag your mouse to where it says share and click that bad boy. We have completed our shooter game. Now, just a simple trick. Don't ever write anything in the instructions. You can, but most people use the notes and credits to write down their instructions. So, let's use that instead. Now, you can add whatever you want. You could even add a story.
Thank you guys so much for watching the last episode of How to Make a Shooter Game.
And
You guys definitely use some scratch abilities. But just make sure that it's the same size as a few grids.
They're too big, bro.
Hey, yeah, they're too big, bro.
All right, bro. You don't have to be weird. So we're going to change it to Miguel. You can also change the font by double-clicking on where you wrote the text. Ahem.
Oh,
Because when you change the ghost effect by 10, repeat 10, it doesn't actually hide. It's just not visible to the naked eye.
naked.
Therefore, if you could always drag it out diagonally, but Rowan's pretty stupid.
Oh,
Boom,
boom, boom, boom. Boom, dum, 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 dum. I just.